Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I hope you are having an amazing day. Welcome to today's fireside chat on the Polyhedra Show, where we explore the cutting edge intersection of AI, blockchain, and the future of intelligence. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting collaborations in the space. How Polyhedra and OpenLedger are working together to define what's possible with ZKML and decentralized AI ecosystems. Together, we're pushing the boundaries of technology to unlock the true potential of the world's data, creating infrastructure that's not only powerful, but also transparent, scalable, and trustworthy. So I'm really excited to be joined by two incredible leaders at the forefront of this transformation. Today, we have Eric Vreeland, our Chief Strategy Officer at Polyhedra. You guys all know Eric Vreeland. He's a brilliant guy to learn from. A lot of insight, absolutely, across everything happening in the field right now. And we have Ram Kumar, the CEO of OpenLedger, a trailblazer in leveraging blockchain technology to create trust-first ecosystems. We're really, really excited to hear his insights today. So today we're focusing on the groundbreaking work happening on EXP chain, where Polyhedra and OpenLedger are creating a decentralized trust infrastructure. We're going to be unpacking how ZKML is transforming the AI landscape, the unique challenges and opportunities of building decentralized AI ecosystems, and most importantly, what this partnership unlocks for businesses, developers, and the future of technology. So grab a coffee, get curious, and join us as we explore the future of AI one block at a time. Eric, Ram, thanks for joining us.
Awesome, Anthony. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think at this point the audience knows who I am. I'm Eric, the Chief Strategy Officer at Polyhedra. I really am looking forward to my Thursday mornings now, and this has become quite a fun event for us to hold. I'm really excited to be here with Ram from OpenLedger today. Ram, to start off, for the audience who may not be familiar with you or OpenLedger, can you give us a little brief background on yourself and OpenLedger and what you guys are building?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Eric. Good to be on the show. I'm Ram. I'm one of the core contributors at OpenLedger. OpenLedger is a data blockchain for AI. Our thesis is very simple. If you take a look at today's agents or AI services, they're all powered by a generic model like OpenAI's model, right? Pretty much every other agent or an AI service is a chat GPT wrapper. This was the trend a couple of years back in the traditional space. People just came up with apps which is a version of ChatGPT, and then they were making revenue with that. But that's going to change, right? It already changed in the traditional space, and we've seen that happening in the Web3 space right now, where most of the agents that you see today are Twitter bots, right? They go ahead and tweet, and it's all based on a prompt that is running on top of an OpenAI model. We want to change that. I think if agents needs to be much more specialized and useful, and to solve a purpose. For example, if you want an agent to go ahead and trade, you would need a model and knowledge base that can provide the necessary knowledge that is required. Right, a specialized model that powers that. How today a human who's an expert in DeFi can actually do better ways to go ahead and stake tokens for you or actually do the trade. Very similarly, if you believe that agents will be the next on-chain humans, then you would need the knowledge base to power them. So that means that you would need multiple specialized models that will power agents and AI services. It could be the Web3 space or the traditional space. All of this require a model which is fine-tuned for a particular purpose. And that's what OpenLedger enables. We build specialized models on top of us and we enable people to do that. And that starts with specialized data. So people contribute data to OpenLedger, which is then fine-tuned to build specialized models or RAG, which is inferenced by any AI agents or services. We believe in that for people to come together, you need to have a trustless system, and that's what we are building. It's a trustless. People believe the code than the human, where data contributors can come forward, collaborate together, and build models that can enable agents to perform better. And as these models are being used, they get paid for that. So yes, so that's a quick introduction about what is OpenLedger.
Yeah, no, and it's very relevant. I think previously on the Polyhedra show with Sam and Tian Chen, they have discussed the opportunity that ZKML provides from data evaluation, from building this trustless system um, to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of AI in this decentralized manner. So I do think the audience has some good context here, but for you guys, can you tell me a little bit more about why you were excited about EXP chain, or what kind of technology was most interesting to you, or one that you guys feel like could unlock kind of the next evolution of what you guys are building?
Yeah, so I would like to talk about something that we've been working on over the last almost a year, which is proof of attribution, which is basically so if you want specialized models to be built, data is the biggest component, right? If you take a look at it for a foundation model, like an OpenAI model or a Llama model, there is compute, there is data and models that comes together, the algorithm that is there in the model, which comes together and builds a foundation model, right? So the multiple components that is there is not only data. A lot of things could change if you don't have enough compute. So, but in a specialized model, you have the base model already, you have a foundation model already. What changes that is the data that you feed to it, right? Data is the biggest component over here. So if we want to make sure that you have high quality of data, you need to have a pathway where data contributors get paid, right? And when they get paid, they can have a verification system to figure out why they got paid and how much they've got paid and whether it is valid or not, right? That is what led us to build this proof of attribution. To put it simply, like let's say we have 100 people contributing a data point, and just for argument's sake, and we go ahead and fine tune a model with that, with these 100 data points by each individual user, and then this is a model that is, let's say, is used for trading, and we go ahead and inference this model. Let's say an agent calls this model, gets an output. Based on every inference, we figure out which data providers data cause the biggest influence in that output, right? One thing with models is that the outputs are not deterministic. You don't know every time you're going to get the same model, but you would know that which data point always cause the biggest influence for an output to happen. So on every inference, we figure out which data provider's data point caused the biggest impact, and we provide weightage to that, and we attribute it accordingly, right? And now with this attribution, you can reward the data providers. You can enable price discovery to happen. Let's say data point 5 got $50, but data point 6 got only $30. Now you know how what is the quality of data, what you need to do to actually provide much better data to get to that $50, right? So the price discovery happens in the platform. That is, I think that's the best part of this. If we whatever we're doing, if it happens and if it becomes, people get adopted to it and people start using this, it is one of the best places where you could have people across the globe come forward, contribute data, build intelligent systems, which are basically models, and have that used by various agents and AI services. We want to revolutionize what happened with the internet space, where people came forward and contributed content to the internet. They indexed to the web, and that's why web is what today we all learn from the internet. Very similarly, we'll all start using AI than the web. And if you want AI to be enriched, if you want it to do the things that we wanted to do, you need to provide data to that. You need to index to AI, and you need to index in a way that the data is not just raw data, it is an intelligence. It is convertible as a useful information for an agent or an AI service. And that's where data is converted as a model on top of OpenLedger. And we want to make sure that people who make that happen get benefited in that process. So yes, so that's something that we are really uh, happy about what we've built, and we want to see that into works as we go mainnet. And this has been a research paper we've been working on over the last year or so. One of the major reasons that we spend a lot of time in SF is because of this, right? We work with a bunch of professors in Stanford and Columbia as well. So yeah, so that's something that I'm very excited about on what OpenEdge is building.
Got it. Now, let me know if you think that this analogy seems somewhat reasonable. In the early days of the internet, uh, I think eyeballs were kind of what was driving it, right? And so people that wanted to make money could create content, and if that content got viewed, they had ads and they got paid for that. In the
Yeah,
next evolution of this is now, AI is going to be the platform that we're all utilizing, and instead of eyeballs, what we really need is data to power those
yeah,
models and make accurate
yeah,
decisions. And now
yeah,
we need to find a way to reward the contributors of those of that data that
exactly.
makes them more accurate. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Um,
You're spot on.
Amazing. I love it. Great. So then we get into, and this might be a little bit in the weeds, but we get into how you actually achieve this, because a lot of people think about AI as a black box. I put in some data, I train a model, I get a model comes out, or if I'm a user, I put in an input, I get an inference. I don't really know how it works. So this idea of kind of waiting and understanding, at least in a probabilistic way, what data is powering this model seems incredibly difficult. I know our team has talked a lot about ZKML, but can you talk about kind of the work that you've done around ZKML, and how does this kind of new technology really play an integral part in helping you guys build what you're trying to build?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two parts to this. One, again, comes back to the attribution, and the second part is the ZKML. Why attribution again is because once I figure out which data point is actually causing this inference to happen, now I'm able to crack on how a model performs based on data, right? I'm using data's influence in a model to figure out how this model is performing. In a way, we are using data to explain AI. It's not all that is required to completely explain what is AI because there's a lot of components to it. But at least we understand how a model performs based on the data that you contribute. But then it comes down to certain other things as well, where let's say there is sensitive data, like for example, healthcare data, because there was one requirement that a user wanted to build on top of OpenLedger, and that's when this thought itself came about because it was a mental health based model, and they've collected this huge repository of mental health data from various players across the globe, and it's proprietary information. They own this, right? And they want to build a model around this and power agents and apps that can use this. Um, but like, how do you go ahead and train a model? Because ours is a distributed system where if you go ahead and contribute data, you could use a GPU partners, any of these partners that you work with, like Aether and Iron and all that, and then you plug in a model, let's say like a Llama, an open source model, and then you start training it. But exposing healthcare data, which is like very sensitive mental health data, is something that they wouldn't want to do. So that's where we were exploring other scenarios, and ZKML is where we kind of found that okay, how can we now go ahead and um, take certain data points, not expose the data points, but have use ZKML to actually train models with that, fine tune models with that, and then see how we can execute that. Right? And we were figuring out partners to work with. Then that's how I think we found you guys, explore ways to work together. And what is interesting about it, we wanted to crack how we can use ZKML for like LoRa fine tuning. And that's in process right now. That's how we will work with you guys and make sure that is available so that anyone who contributes data to us, they can use Polyhedra ZKML solutions to actually train models on top of us. So that's the second component, right? How we can use data with and train a model, but still not expose the data outside for sensitive information like this is what led us to work with folks like you guys. And hopefully, when this comes to an actual implementation, we'll be able to showcase what was possible, and then we could talk more about that as well.
Yeah, No, it sounds like a really good case study for the future, and that it's nice to finally or to hear kind of this hypothesis that we had as a company being validated with real companies and real use cases, because we've talked for a while that one of the advantages that we see for ZKML is this idea to kind of train models on sensitive data. So whether it is in healthcare, which is one that you've talked about, or in finance, a lot of companies have access to financial data, but they don't want that to be public. But if we can create a world in which there's less barriers or less worry when contributing data to a model, that data won't be leaked, I think we can significantly accelerate the rate at which these models are improving, because obviously, like you said, data is the lifeblood of these models. Now we just need to figure out, and some of these use cases we're trying to solve involve very sensitive types of data. We
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
figure out how to get access to that in a safe, secure, and compliant way. Um, let's now kind of jump to, I guess, EXP chain, which we've talked about is kind of, is Polyhedra's layer one blockchain, and um, purpose built for verifiable AI, for ZKML, for verifying ZK proofs incredibly efficiently. Can you talk about what drew you to EXP chain? If it was just the ZKML integration, I think that's great to discuss, or were there other components as well that kind of contributed to your interest in EXP chain?
Yeah, so absolutely. One of the major reasons, obviously, we reached out to you guys and started picking out to work together was the KML, because we wanted to have a solution around that. As you know, like we are not the experts in terms of providing solutions which are privacy preserving. We don't want to be that as well. But it's inevitable that people will contribute data which is private, right? And that's one of the reasons we started speaking with a lot of other players out there, and that's how we ended up working with you. And I think that's the first implementation that we'll be implementing with you guys. Post that is when we also figured out ways where we can have verification mechanisms, right? For example, if someone challenges, we could use verification mechanisms to showcase that it's provable that this is the data that was used and this is the model that was trained out of that. So that's sort of, I think it's as these use cases start getting built on top of OpenLedger, and as people start using various partnerships that we have, we would need more use cases. We would see more implementations of that. Initially, I think it's going to be very few scenarios where we would want to execute this and like showcase to the world. And once that is possible, I think there will be more private data that will come forward, and then there'll be more implementations where we will use the KML, and then we would also need other verification systems to prove if there was a challenge.
That makes sense. And I know you guys are in the process of building right now. So, this may be an answer in progress as well. But can you talk for the developers that are on the space that are thinking about deploying on EXP chain or working with ZK PyTorch? Can you talk about the development process? Has it been smooth? Like, are there any uh, things that you guys are looking for us to provide, or like how has that experience been so far?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges over here is that not many people are proficient in terms of how to implement ZK verifications. I think we would want to leave it to experts, and that's how, we were able to work with your team to get in the right documentations. Obviously, we will work much more closer with you when the actual implementations come, since we are in developments right now. The biggest challenge here is the skill, right? Not many people know this, and even if they know, it's like we don't have full-time people who actually can implement this, right? We would want to work with partners like you guys. We have the development team that does the blockchain part, which is hard, which itself is a big process of actually having data on chain and proving its provenance. We have the ML team, which actually takes care of the fine tuning and the no code platform. But we work with players like you who can provide us with implementation like ZKML. And so yes, so we rely on your support and your team as well. And hopefully, going forward, there is a no code way for people to do this also, and I think that's a long term thinking. But right now, it's more one off process, and then once we start implementing this, is when we would see whether this was actually hard or whether this was possible or not.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I know, well, I guess I'll use this opportunity as kind of a shameless plug. If you are an engineer, developer, DevRel, anyone who's kind of building and interested in ZKML, reach out to us. Our team is growing. We're excited. We get to work with awesome teams like the OpenLedger and help them build these solutions that we think are going to really revolutionize the AI industry. I guess that's I transitioned without even knowing it, but let's talk about how it's going to revolutionize the world. And you talked a little bit about healthcare. Can you talk about a little bit, maybe some other use cases where you see the technology that you're building really playing a big part in kind of accelerating the progress that we're making with AI? And I guess these are probably all going to be industries where data privacy is really necessary.
No, absolutely. I think AI will come up. There will be more use cases that we'll start seeing in the AI space that we've not envisioned before, right? We never thought that there will be a platform like TikTok that'll come out when the internet was born. So we wouldn't know what kind of AI services would actually we will start seeing as the years goes by. I think financial information, as you told, I think is an absolute need, right? Because, for example, if we want to go ahead and figure out ways where I can estimate salaries of people in the next 20 years after AI starts to become big, I need to get information of various salaries of various people across the globe and across organizations, which is not a public information that is there. I'm sure that a lot of organizations holds that, but they don't want to expose that particular data as it is, right? I'm sure. So that's one place where I see immediate implementations where financial information you need to use privacy preserving techniques to actually train models. Another interesting scenario is that we are working with an e-commerce giant who want to build a model which is basically helps people have a better customer experience. Think of that to be similar to the Rufus model that is there in Amazon, where you go ahead and ask questions and it suggests you, right? Very similarly, but more on the customer experience, right? And also more knowing more about the actual customer. Let's say, for example, if it's Ram, like I would know what Ram prefers, what kind of products he's looking for, and like what's his purchase history and what kind of budget and all that, right? And then I would suggest Ram accordingly. That means that there is a lot of personal information that we need to tap into. There was a huge compliance issue with that. It took almost about 3 4 months for them to pass through compliance and actually provide this data and get consent from the actual users to even do a POC, right? If we had solutions like ZKML where we don't have to actually have the data exposed at all, and we can still train a model and actually still get an output, um, I think that would have been amazing, right? I think that would have been possible. Instead, we couldn't figure out scenarios like that. We started like generating synthetic data and started building a model around that. So scenarios like that where a lot of enterprises, if they want to adopt into AI, if they want to build AI services, if they want to build an internal engine, they might need to access their customers' personal data. And in all of those scenarios, you would need to figure out privacy preserving mechanisms that can be used to train models. So I think the options are endless, right? So there will be various organizations, various enterprises across the globe who have proprietary information, customer information that they can make useful of. Or at all of those places, you would need privacy preserving techniques. So yes, those are the use cases that I can see right away.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why like Amazon has such a head start in AI, right? Is because they had access to all this data. They didn't need to expose it. It was already theirs. And
Yeah.
now everyone else is, if you don't have access to a treasure trove of data, how do we get access? So, that leads me to the next question, which is I'm an AI developer or I'm a, machine learning engineer. I want to build this model. I have a great idea for a model that I think I have expertise in a, particular domain. I need to get data. I want to work with OpenLedger to get it or to help me, attract people to contributing data to my model. how do they work with you? How do these guys work with OpenLedger? How do they use your products, or when will it be available if it's not available now?
Yeah, we need more people like you, probably millions of them. So, uh, this has been happening for quite some time. If you go ahead and take a look at like Hugging Face, there have been developers who like start playing around with data and like build like unique models out of that, right? They either come up with multiple data sets, combine them together, and build their own model, or they start experimenting with bringing their own data set and then actually training a model with that. We've seen that happen in Hugging Face and a few other platforms as well. Those are those users that will use OpenLedger also. Just that you have now Web3 primitives to have a much larger bounty to collect data and then use that information to actually build a model. So if you're a developer and assuming that you want to build model for solidity, which is already happening in a platform right now, right? Like Cursor is a great product. It understands almost every other programming language. I think top 30 programming languages can be programmed using Cursor. It understands solidity, but it's not an expert in that, right? It doesn't know the intricacies that we want it to know. Um, that's where like specialized models come in, where you have like think of like all these base models to be like an undergrad and a specialized model to be like a PhD in a particular topic. They can use OpenLedger to collect like specialized data sets around solidity. It could be code descriptions, it could be documents, it could be actual code itself, which can be collected on top of us. Run a bounty, start a data net, um, and go ahead and build models on top of that using that data net where data is contributed like capsules, and as they contribute this data, they start training these models on top of us, and then once the model is available they could test that in the platform itself when we have all the evals that is required, eval mechanism that is required to test the model, and then once the model is ready you can host in a platform, and we provide you with the API endpoints that can be accessed by any agent frameworks out there, or you could like put up like a public chat on top of that and start people using that, right? So it starts with data collection and then model training and then making it available in a platform for others to use. And as agents or AI services start using this model, and as they pay for the inference, we make sure that whoever contributed to your data net to build that model gets paid back through attribution. And that's where we provide you the infrastructure for this to happen, and then you can reward back the data contributors. So yes, so that's what happens. That's what is the process for a developer to come forward and build a model on top of us. There are people already who are doing that in our testnet right now. So right now it's more of the data collection phase where we are collecting like a bedrock of internet data. The second phase of this is where people would come forward and like um, actually bring in their own data sets and like play around and like train models and then showcase that outside. So very excited for this.
Really cool, and great to hear. That there are some teams building some exciting stuff on there right now. You kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to dig into it a little bit more. You talked about the importance of blockchain and AI in this context, and I bring that up because I think a lot of people have expressed skepticism. Why does AI need blockchain? Why can't we do everything we can do just without a blockchain in Web2 in a traditional environment? What does the blockchain unlock for you guys that you would be unable to do without the blockchain?
Yeah, I would disagree with anyone who says that. And the reason why is because I'm itself someone who's got benefited out of that, right? Because like when we were initially building OpenLedger and we wanted to experiment with like training models and all that, um, when like we went with like a lot of centralized providers to get their GPUs, right? And it used to cost us like $7-8 per hour to rent a GPU and actually use it for training. It was, I don't think it's a viable way for a startup to actually. We got funded, but so we could afford it. But for a startup, it's not the right thing to actually spend so much to actually to play around and see how the model works, right? And then we started working with decentralized GPU providers, where the cost was like I think $1 per hour, and the only way they could do that is because they could crowdsource, bootstrap providing GPU resources. So that was possible because of blockchain. You could put up a network where people can contribute to that network, and then you can use the network back to pay to these contributors, and then you can pay in any like a currency which can be accepted by anyone across the globe. I don't think would be possible using any traditional mechanisms. That's possible only using crypto and blockchain rails. And so yes, so that was something that was possible. I've seen that happen, and that is one of the, I think, best ways to prove out that blockchain is needed for AI, just for the aspect of bootstrapping, right? That's what we believe in as well. We believe in data bootstrapping because for building specialized models, you would need to have data, access to data, and OpenLedger provides you the access to data where you can start a data net and let people across the globe contribute data sets to that, and then you can build up a model and then pay them back as the model learns, right? Which is a great way for us to actually see more and more models being built on top of us, and also getting paid as these models are being used. So bootstrapping is one of the least seen aspects of blockchain, but I think that's one of the best out there. AI needs that for more innovations to happen, for more open source to grow. You need to have bootstrapping, and blockchain enables that. So yes, so I would take that point as the best way to prove that. And obviously there are other elements, verifiability. You could prove out that there is no one centralized system that's behind this. So all of that we all know about it. So,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't, I mean, if you don't have blockchain, I think, one of the key things that makes this work is while there is privacy on the data side, there's transparency on the reward side, right? And there's um, verifiability in the mechanisms that you guys are using to determine this is how much this particular data contributed to this model. This is how much rewards these data providers were given from this, and like all of this would not be possible without the blockchain. You know, I'm just envisioning a world where like, the reward mechanism for providing data is like, a centralized entity, and then you have a Spotify situation, right? It's like, trust me, bro, your data was used, worth 5 cents last month. Here's your check for 5 cents in the mail. Um, and I think, that in itself is uh, a pretty strong case for why AI and blockchain, and that doesn't even get into, like you said, the bootstrapping of computational resources and things like that. Before we get into questions from the audience, I've got a couple more for you. I want you to think, super long term, which we don't get a lot of time to do in Web3 because everything is changing so quickly. But let's take a minute and let's think 5-10 years down the road. What does the world look like? What role is AI, and specifically, some of the areas that you guys are focused on play, and what does the world look like in 5 to 10 years from now, and what does OpenLedger look like?
I think AI, we should start seeing it like electricity, like all the innovations that happened, like how transport changed, how electricity changed. It's like skyrocketed innovations. I think whatever AI does is going to be 100x or 1000x of that, right? It's just going to make things much more rapid. Just think about like even like agents, right? You have now agents which can go ahead and do tasks that you don't have to spend time for. It just makes things much more easier and quicker. Um, if AI is a general purpose technology like electricity, it's going to be there in every other field. We're going to see that impact in every other scenarios that can possibly happen. Is just going to create more innovations to happen. Like even if you take a look at apps, right? Today, if you don't have apps like Uber, I don't think we'll be able to survive in every other Web3 conference that we go there, right? To just give something which people can relate to. And that was possible because there was internet, there was electricity, there was tech that is being built on top of us, and being built on top of us. Very similarly, I think AI will change the way that we see world. I always hear about this concept called extra cortex, where the extra cortex is like your rented brain, right? You use an additional source which can guide you much better than your actual human capabilities. Um, your mobile phone is usually referred as the exacortex, right? But I think AI is going to be the true exacortex out there. It's going to change the way we see the world. It's going to speed up our innovations at least 100,000x, as I told you, right? A lot of things would change. Hopefully, a lot of things will change in Web3, apart from the short term, speculation that you're seeing recently with the agents and all that. So, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that will happen. Let's see how it is there. Hopefully, AGI, we know where it will be by that time. A lot of people are building safer ways for AGI. Would love to learn more about that. Love to see what happens over there as well. So there's a lot more to come. I think we are in the very initial stages. ChatGPT today is just intelligent version of what is there in the internet. Um, I don't think we've seen the full potential of any AI model that is out there. So there's a lot more to come as the space evolves.
Absolutely. And I guess from a ZKML perspective, or where Polyhedra, I think on a previous show, we talked about kind of our 6 to 12 month roadmap and the acceleration of ZKML and the, EXP chain coming to mainnet. Which of these kind of deliverables from Polyhedra's perspective, whether it's improvements to ZK PyTorch or acceleration of ZKML, is going to be most impactful for you guys at OpenLedger?
I think we would love to experiment, as I told you, on the ZKML side, because that's where there is immediate use case for us, and we are not experts in that, right? So we'd love to see how the use cases that are being built on OpenLedger can actually use Polyhedra services. So we're eagerly waiting to work with you guys more on that. So yeah, so that's what I will look forward to.
Amazing. Well, we are very excited to continue working on ZKML and to work with companies like you guys to make those easier to use, more efficient to use. So it's great to hear that we have such a good kind of design and build partner with you guys. With that, I will bring Anthony back up on stage. I know we've been collecting questions over the past 48 hours. And I think hopefully if it's anything like the last spaces, we probably have thousands of questions rolling in. Hopefully he's curated a few high quality ones for you, Ram.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me back, guys. I always love these firesides. It's great to be able to sit back and listen to you guys as I'm scrolling through the questions and trying to sink it all in. But yeah, a lot of insights and really, really cool to hear. And obviously learning about like proof of attribution, like you were talking about, Ram. It's that's such an interesting concept. And Eric, I like how you were saying how it's kind of like there was a race to produce the best content, and this is, very, very similar to that. It's going to be a race to provide the best data, and that's really exciting, right? Like, and also, the e-commerce kind of equation that you mentioned around, like, getting through compliance, privacy, that you needing those privacy preserving techniques. Something I hadn't heard of a real world use case like that was actually happening, and so that was really, really, really cool. But moving on, we have received an absolute bunch, snowfall, Eric, of fantastic questions from our audience about ZKML, XP Chain, and their partnership. So I've chosen a couple here that I'd like to shoot to you. Maybe Ram, you can take this one first up. So how is the data collected, stored, and protected to ensure user privacy and security?
Yeah, so there are two aspects here. One is public data or proprietary information, which they don't mind being shared. In that case, it's in our own storage network. We work with other storage providers as well. And then, we obviously take the data and send it to various other GP providers to train them, which is public, which is open. And the data providers are absolutely fine with that. We get their consent to have the data be accessible by multiple parties. In terms of proprietary information, like for example, the conversation that we had in this particular show, there's a lot of proprietary data which they don't want to be exposed, which they want to keep private. Like for example, healthcare data or customer experience data and stuff like that. So that's where we work with players like Polyhedra. We implement ZKML techniques, and the storage itself is kept private. We implement scenarios where, we figured out scenarios where we wanted to work with players who have privacy preserving storage techniques as well. So we work with other partners for that as well. So yeah, so in terms of it's basically based on requirements, and we are a permissionless platform. We provide the tools that is required for people to use. And like for example, Polyhedra is a partner that we enable in our platform, and people who want to use privacy preserving techniques like ZKML to actually train their models, they can go ahead and use that. So yes, so that's how we do this. So it's based on the requirements that is there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I can already think of, a bunch of applications that people can use it. I know a lot of people in the marine industry, a lot of people like very avid divers, for example, and they're always out there collecting this data on, reef data. It's obviously so expansive, but then being able to connect that in, with biologists or marine biologists, etc. I think could be really, really powerful, and especially the people who are, connecting the people that are out there in the field with the person who's in the lab and being able to quantify how, how valuable that data is
Yeah.
really, really cool, man. So yeah,
So that's a
thanks for,
very niche. That's a very niche data, right? Stuff like that you would
yeah,
not find on the internet, or you would not
right.
be seeing that available in a model, which is like a generic LLM. So they always think of LLM to be like an OS, right? Like some a support system. Specialized models are these unique apps that are on top of that. We have apps for social media, we have apps for e-commerce, we have apps for, let's say, food delivery. Each one solves a particular purpose. That's how specialized models are. So stuff like that you told about, where you would not find the data available in a public forum, in an LLM at least. So you would need to build a specialized model for that. You would need to multiple parties to come forward and contribute data to actually make that happen. So yes, so that's what we want to be seeing built on OpenLedger.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I can imagine a lot of, a lot of cross industry collaborations happening with that as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's, a lot of data that is proprietary that, yeah, people have spent time and money collecting, but it'd be valuable across different verticals. So it's really, really
Yeah.
cool that you're empowering people to
So
do
there
that
is
in a fashion that they're,
So
sorry,
there
go
was
on.
this interesting scenario where, so someone, they wanted to contribute like Arabic data sets. Like most of these models today, they don't perform well in terms of Arabic language. So they wanted to contribute like Arabic data sets and then have like off-chain data, another data set, brought together, build a model where people can converse with the model in Arabic and actually get information about what's happening in the crypto sentiment space, right? Uh, and obviously have like RAG and all that feed it constant information. So, which is a unique way of building a model where you use Arabic as a language to communicate using the Arabic data sets, and then you have some off-chain data where you get insights about the crypto space, the sentiments about that, which we didn't think that people will actually build, and that is already happening. So we are seeing interesting scenarios where data collaborations across various parties are happening. More will happen as we go mainnet as well. So happy to see stuff like that.
Brilliant. Very, very cool. I'm, uh, I'm just scrolling through some of the questions here. Eric, you've done it again, man. You've you've had the foresight to absolutely address pretty much like 80% of these questions. So I'm just rolling through them quickly. But this one has jumped out at me. So, what are the biggest challenges you face in building trust in AI data, and how did you overcome them?
I think with that we touched that a bit also. So I think it comes down. So that's one of the reasons why we use like attribution, right? So we want to make sure that every time a data travels through various scenarios, like for example, the initial when data is contributed, we make sure that we attribute back right from the beginning. Like we figure out which user contributes the data. We store the hash of the wallet address on actual data that's being contributed on chain, and then we track how the data is converted into model. as every data gets fed into a model. We have a hash of the model on chain as well. And every time the model is being inferred, that's where the actual data attribution comes in, where we figure out which data provider um, has contributed for this inference to happen. And then we showcase the impact of each data point. So I, as a data provider, know whether my data was used, which model my data was used, and if it was used and someone inferred on that model, whether my data was useful there, what did it make an impact, I'll be able to see that on chain. And I'll also be able to see how much was the money that was received by that model for that particular inference, and how much of that I'll be getting paid as well. So I'll be able to see all of this on chain. I'll be able to see this provenance. So that brings the trust for people to use, trust the code to contribute data, and knowing that they will actually get paid for it. They could see this on chain, and they could verify it anytime they want. So that's how we build this trust among the data providers and our platform.
I have actually a follow-up question for that, which may not be a problem, but in this world where you are able to verify how much data is contributing to a particular inference, do you see the possibility that people may go out to try to create synthetic data that improves these models and then contributes that synthetic data to these models?
Yeah,
Go
we've
ahead.
had this scenario, right? So if you actually take a look at most of these models that are coming out nowadays, like for example, DeepSeek or the Llama 400B model that was released a couple of months back, 80% of that was synthetic data, and it was data that was generated using the previous versions of the model, right? But I think that's fine because, like for example, in real world, like for example, we all have information, but we prompt ourselves to actually enrich that information that is there in the brain to get an output, right? So I think it's absolutely fine to generate synthetic data. It comes down to what kind of prompts that you use to actually generate that information outside, right? How do you make the model think to give you something which is a new information that the model did not happen to have before? You're making the model to think and give you a new output, right? So unless it's not garbage, it's not useless information, it's good. So I don't think it's a problem. It comes down to the quality of the data, and that is where we obviously provide necessary tools that's required for the model trainers. Anyone who's like building a model, they have toolkits on our platform to figure out the quality of the data, right? So as long as the data is not useless, I think it's good enough. It could be synthetic data or it could be an actual data that is there. So as long as it moves the needle, we're happy with that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Cool, guys. I think you guys have actually covered so many of these questions. I mean, and it's been very a lot of information for developers, a lot of information for all of us non-developers as well, to get excited about. So yeah, it's been absolutely great. And Eric, again with the questions, you nail it every time. I might just shoot one more. Actually, I know you guys have a super busy day, so don't want to keep you for too long. But maybe a little bit more of a general one here. How does OpenLedger contribute to building trust in AI data?
I think we pretty much covered in the last discussion.
Pretty much covered that one. I thought it might just be a bit more of a broad throw.
I got one for Ram. Ram, how can they get in touch with you? How do they reach out to the team if people are interested in working with you guys?
So they can reach out to OpenLedger's Twitter. It's basically at OpenLedger HQ, and then my Twitter ID is like at Ramkumar Tweet. So my DMs are open. Happy to have a conversation with anyone.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for the incredible questions. If we didn't get to yours, I'm sure we covered pretty much all of it. But yeah, you can continue the conversation on Discord, X. Make sure you get along and follow. Yeah, this partnership is super exciting, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. And obviously helping people to be empowered and incentivized to participate in this emerging economy realm. It's brilliant. So thank you, Eric. And yeah, thank you, Ram, for the insights. That was a brilliant conversation, gentlemen.
Thank you. Nice talking
Thanks,
to you guys.
Anthony. Thanks, Ram. It was great being on the show with you.
Bye-bye. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Big thank you to everyone who joined us. Yeah, see you next time.
Awesome.